Welcome to Carolina Classrooms. I'm Kimberly Singletary. You know the value of a college degree. Earning one of these may help you find a higher paying job, but these degrees can come with a high price tag. How do you decide how much school you need? And how do you pay for it? Over the next hour, we will hear from college admissions and financial aid professionals from across the state of South Carolina with advice on navigating the process to help you make college affordable. These segments and additional information will be posted on our website, carolinaclassrooms.org. Each of our professionals will share their contact information and websites as well. Scott Brazile is the Vice President for Enrollment Management and Dean for Undergraduate Admissions at the University of South Carolina. He spoke with us about the college application process.
What is the process that I think most college students will have to think about and go through with their parents this year?
Sure. So starting really in the senior year of high school, students, that's when they start to apply to the colleges that they're interested in attending. And so now's the time for the current high school seniors to think about which schools they're going to apply to. And it's just start with a conversation with their parents or coaches or teachers or counselors to sort of narrow that list down to the list of schools that they would want to apply to and gather the information they need to start making their application.
Okay. So would this also apply to non-traditional students who are thinking about application to colleges and universities?
Sure. So there are many different pathways, many different kinds of institutions, and for students at all different levels and phases in their educational career. So when we think about non-traditional or post-traditional students, sometimes those are adult learners returning to school after maybe a period of time in the workforce, or students who never went to college but now decide that that's what they want to do. So typically most colleges and universities intake their students in the fall, but you can start college any semester that the university takes in a new enrollment. Sometimes that can be in the spring or in the summer.
So what's the process a student should go through from start to finish here for admissions?
So if you're looking at a typical high school student, what they would normally do is they would take an appropriate high school curriculum of courses. And if you're a student in South Carolina, the Commission on Higher Education has on their website a list of the recommended college preparatory curriculum that they expect students to take in order to be college ready. Most colleges and universities adhere to that, but there might be some variations. So you should check with the schools that you're interested in too, far enough in advance so that you can take the classes you need in high school to be ready for college. But in general, a good rigorous high school curriculum is the foundation for preparing for college. And you want to do well in those academic courses. Also, students need to take a standardized test, and they can take the SAT or the ACT. Either one are accepted by most colleges and universities. And they should take that at least once and maybe twice or sometimes a third time if they aren't happy with their score. And that'll give them an idea of the kinds of schools they might be competitive for. So write high school courses, a good strong GPA, and then take the SAT or the ACT. Those are the preparatory things you need to do. Once you've done those things, then you start making your application. You fill out the application to the schools that you'd like to consider attending.
Okay. Are most applications online, or do you fill them out and put them in the mail or drop by? Or
most applications are now online, and there are some common applications that many schools use the same version, like the Common App. That's one you'll hear of. There's another one called the Coalition App, which is relatively new. That's also, there are about 100 different colleges and universities that will take the Coalition App. And then schools do have their own online applications that you can fill out on their university websites as well.
So is the Coalition application one where if I fill it out, then I could apply to multiple checkbox and they go to various institutions?
That's the way it works for the Common App and for the Coalition App. When you fill out, most of the information you fill it out one time, and then you can indicate the colleges that you'd like to have that application sent to. So you can apply to multiple ones at the same time.
Should students be applying for a college that they're not sure if their scores will get in? I mean, should they shoot for pie in the sky, and how would you advise them?
So the admissions process is not always clear. And so sometimes you think you might be admitted, sometimes you might not, and each year competes against itself for a lot of schools, so it's very difficult to predict who's going to get admitted to what school. So we tell students you need to have options, and so you should apply to more than one school. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. You need to be realistic about the kinds of schools that you would be eligible for, but it's a good idea to have some stretch goals out there as well. So I typically advise students to apply to at least 3. And students today are applying to more and more schools. They're being careful consumers, but 3, where you'd have one school that you're very confident you're going to get admitted to that school, then one that's sort of a solid school, and then maybe a stretch school that if you could get into that one, it might be a little bit of a outside chance, but a school that you'd like to go to. That's pretty common. But nowadays we're seeing students apply to 5 to 7 schools on average, whereas in the past might have been only 3. It's really up to the student. I think if you apply to more than 7 schools, you're probably going a little far, a little excessive there, maybe a little more homework and research on the front end to narrow that list down is a better idea. But you do want to give yourself some options.
Okay. And are there still fees to applications when you fill out those?
Yeah, there is a cost to apply. And the costs can vary from school to school, but usually it's somewhere in the range of $30 to as high as maybe even $100 per school. And it can get quite expensive. The more schools you apply to, the greater the fees you'll pay. And I would encourage students that are eligible for fee waivers to look into those as well. Students can obtain application fee waivers from their high school guidance counselor. There are several that are available out there that they can obtain, and universities honor that. So if a student can't afford to pay for the application fee, the fee waiver helps offset the cost.
If you had to advise students on 4 particular things to look for a good fit in order to go to college and where to find their right college, what would you advise them? What are your top 4 things that you would think about?
So the most important thing is the program of study. Does the school have what you want to study? Sometimes students don't know what they want to study, so that can be a tough question to answer if they're not quite sure yet. But if it's not clear to them, then they need to go to a school that has enough options that they think they could find their niche there. And if they don't know what that niche might be, that the school has the resources available to help them figure that out while they're there. But if you want to be an architect one day and the school you're attending doesn't offer architecture, then that's not a good fit. So you need to make sure you pick a place that has the degree program that you want to pursue. Another important thing is the cost of attendance. And this one can be tough to figure out sometimes because schools list their typical price, but they also offer scholarships and financial aid that make it much more affordable. So you have to dig a little deeper than what I would call the sticker price to figure out if the school is actually affordable. But you want to make sure you're going to a school that is reasonable, that you can afford, and that it has the financial aid that makes it affordable to you. So program of study and cost are probably the 2 biggest. Then you get into other areas that vary in importance to different students, like how far away from home it is, how big the school is, if it's a public school or a private school, what part of the country is it in. So that's where it really becomes more important for the student to know what's important to them when picking the schools that they're interested in.
Okay, good. Thank you. Do you mind sharing your contact information with us?
Sure. If someone would like to call the Office of Admissions and here at the University of South Carolina, our phone number is 803-777-7700. And they can call that number. They can also call 777-2001. And if they call that number, we can put them right through and talk with an admissions counselor, set up a visit. We'd love to have people come and see the university.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us this afternoon. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for having me.
Elizabeth Milam is the Director of Financial Aid at Clemson University. She spoke with us about the types of financial aid and the importance of filing early.
The FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid, and it is the foundation. It is the key that opens the doors to all different types of financial aid, including federal loans, federal grants, federal work study, state grants, and it's used to determine the need for need-based scholarships. It's an online form. Most families can do it in about 30 minutes, so it's nothing to be intimidated by. There's a tool inside the FAFSA called the IRS Retrieval, and you can actually link to the IRS, bring that data into your FAFSA, and that's great for several reasons. First of all, it makes it easier. You're not having to do line-by-line questions. Second, it is almost impossible to make a mistake because it's coming straight from the IRS. And third, it's encrypted, so it's safer. So we encourage everyone to use the IRS retrieval. Schools are always going to give you the, quote, good money first. So we're always going to give you the grants, the gift assistance, money that does not have to be paid back, before we're going to give you what we call self-help aid, such as federal work study or loans. But again, the FAFSA is the application for all of those types of programs. It opens in October, and there's no reason to not go ahead and do it in October because, again, the taxes are already finished. But most deadlines are going to be in the early spring. So as long as you're meeting the earliest deadline of all the schools and programs in which you're interested in, you're going to be filing the FAFSA just one time and listing multiple schools. But there's no reason not to go ahead and do it in October because that's a fairly quiet time of the year as far as senior activities, and it would be a good time to go ahead and get that off your checklist. There is absolutely no harm in going ahead and filling out the FAFSA even if you're not sure which college you're going to apply. You can list multiple colleges on the FAFSA and they will receive that information, which may start a conversation with that school that previously did not know you were interested. You can certainly fill out the FAFSA with no colleges listed, but there's no harm in going ahead and listing 5 or 6 that you might be interested in. The deadlines for each school should be prominently displayed on their website. So the student does need to do a little bit of homework, a little bit of research. It should be fairly easy to find the financial aid tab on the school's website, and checklists, deadlines, any additional applications that that school requires should be clearly earmarked on that page. There are reasons why students simply miss the deadlines or just don't have the support of their family to get the form done in a timely manner. But it's really never too late to submit the FAFSA. Up until June 30th of the year after college, you can still submit the FAFSA, and the Pell Grant is an entitlement that doesn't really run out, and the loans are available at any time of the year. So some programs may go away. We certainly encourage you to meet the deadlines so you have full consideration. But even if you miss those deadlines, it's never too late to do the FAFSA until the year is virtually over. The students will be notified. The calendar, again, is a little bit different from school to school. Typically the private schools get the award letters out a little earlier than the public schools. But the universal date to accept a college offer is May 1. So unless you're doing early decision, the month of April is kind of the critical time. You should have heard from your schools, you should have your aid offers, you should be able to make an informed decision at that time. Most schools are going to inform you by email or by paper mail, and I cannot stress the importance of knowing how to get to your email. Students are very busy that time of year. They're getting a lot of information from a lot of different people. But the email that they used on their admissions application or the email that they're assigned by that school, they need to monitor that very carefully because quite a bit of the communication will be to that email, not to the parents. It's going to go to the student, and it may ask them to log in to view their awards. It may be a paper award letter, so the communication is going to be slightly different from school to school. There are 3 different kinds of educational loans. The first is the federal direct loan in the student's name, what parents may remember being called a guaranteed student loan. That's a loan in the student's name, may or may not be subsidized depending on the need level that was expressed by the FAFSA, and it is repaid after the student leaves school, hopefully because they graduated, but if not, when they left school or dropped below half-time enrollment. Interest rates are low, it's a very attractive loan. If that's not enough, there are a couple of other options. The first would be a Parent Plus loan. This is also a federal educational loan, but it's in the name of mom or dad or a step-parent. And it is also can be deferred until the student gets out of school. Interest rate's a little bit higher. The student loan is a little more attractive, but the credit check is fairly mild, and many parents are approved for the Parent Plus loan. If that's not agreeable to the parents, then the student can take out a private loan in their name, but a parent or some other credit-worthy adult is more than likely going to have to co-sign with them. So it's still going to be sort of a family affair. Schools can't tell students which lender to use for those private loans. But this is not the student going to a bank and asking for a loan. This is a list on the school's website of approved lenders or lenders that their students have used in the past. There'll be names on there that are national that you'll recognize. There'll be some local names like the South Carolina Student Loan Corporation. Your own bank may be on the list. And so you can do your own research, maybe shop around a little bit and find the loan that's best for you. Each school that participates in the federal programs has something called a net price calculator, and it should be very easy to just do a search on their very first page. And it asks for you to put in certain items about yourself, your income, your grades, and it's going to tell you what a student that looks like you received at their school in a prior year. Some are more sophisticated than others, but all of them are going to give you an idea of what to expect. And it's a very valuable tool because you may be looking at a school that seems way beyond your reach financially, but they have enough scholarships and institutional aid that they may be more affordable than a much cheaper school. So if you don't ask the questions, if you don't apply, if you don't at least get an idea from them, you may be marking off a school that was a good fit for you. Because the year we use on the FAFSA is already fairly dated by the time the student starts schools, we get a lot of questions about, that's not what my income is anymore. And so if you have a situation where in the year that was on the FAFSA you were married and now you're separated, divorced, or widowed, or if you've lost your job, then that is definitely something that you need to talk to your financial aid office about. Now, normal fluctuations for businesses, typically we can't do anything for that, but a dramatic loss of income because of death, divorce, a medical issue, the financial aid office can do a professional judgment if the documentation warrants that. If I could give advice to everybody, it would be, one, apply early. And early is really hard to define because you can't start any earlier as far as the applications go than October 1. But just make sure you're meeting the first deadline of the school, the earliest deadline of the schools you're interested in and the programs you're applying for. Secondly, read your emails. That is the primary thing that we hear from students who miss out on something. I didn't know, and we did send that to them. We did clearly state this is something you need to do, but they're not really always attentive to those emails. Borrow responsibly. We know nobody wants to take out a loan, but when a student expresses a lot of fear in borrowing, I usually ask them, have you or do you ever plan to borrow a loan to pay for a car? If you're willing to borrow a loan to pay for a car, your education is going to be so much more valuable to you over your life than that car is going to be. So borrow responsibly, don't borrow for luxury, borrow for necessity, but if you need to take out a loan to attend the school that's going to match your best career goals, then absolutely that's a good investment. To reach me or a financial aid counselor at Clemson University, call 864-656-2280 or email finaid@clemson.edu. That's FINAID@clemson.edu. Our website is clemson.edu/finaid.
We met with Joey Derrick, Director of Financial Aid at the University of South Carolina, to learn more about the financial aid process.
I know there was a big movement or bill passed in 2016 that changed financial aid. And there were two important items that changed. Could you talk about those?
I sure
what
can.
They are and the details?
Absolutely. This was something that the financial aid industry had asked for many years. Beginning with the 2017-18 financial aid year, students and parents were now able to use tax information from 2 years ago. So that meant for 2017-18, they used their 2015 tax information. And the benefit for that is most folks had their tax returns completed at that time. In the past, we oftentimes helped students and families who had not completed a return yet. They were scrambling to find information, and it was a challenge all around. So a big change there. It was often called prior year. That was the buzzword, so to speak. That was the first change. And the second change was the timing. Prior to 2017-18, the FAFSA was always available around January 1st of each year. But this time, it was available on October 1st. giving families a lot more time to complete the FAFSA, complete corrections, make sure everything was accurate, and possibly receive aid information earlier.
Okay. Did that affect the way and when people applied for financial aid?
It certainly did. We saw a lot of folks apply very early, and we were really appreciative of that because that gave us time to look at FAFSAs received at the University of South Carolina, Columbia, and reach out to those families if we had questions. In the past, we had a little bit of a compressed time frame, but now we had about 8 more weeks to work with them and make sure we had as many folks ready to award around April the 1st as possible.
Okay. Now I have a question, and this is for families and who may have first-time students in colleges. When do you really start to prepare for college in that financial aid form?
You know, it's interesting. I speak to a lot of families like this. You really begin completing it your senior year, okay, that October of your senior year. But I really encourage families to look at this as early as possible. Even before you would actually fill it out for real, it's good to get an idea of the kind of questions that it asks so a family can be prepared. A lot of times the form is a little daunting, particularly if this is the first time you've got a student in the family going to college. And so I always encourage folks to begin early. Just be prepared and understand what it's asking for so that it won't be overwhelming once it's time to complete it actually in October of each year.
Okay. How do they know, based on family income, where they want to go and how that all shapes out for them?
It really becomes kind of a balancing act as a family begins to look at what are the institutions the student wishes to go to, what are the costs of those institutions, and what is a reasonable expectation of the aid that they might be able to receive. That last part is sometimes the hardest part to know for sure. What we always recommend to folks is, apply to the colleges in which you're interested in, look very carefully at the aid packages that you get, and determine which one is best for you in terms of all the things that you believe are important in a college education. So very, very complicated, lots of variables, lots of decision points.
I see. So if I were a senior in high school now, what are the checklists, the must-do that I should have completed this year?
From my perspective, the checklist involves primarily completing the free application for federal student aid. Okay, that comes out in October. So that means to be prepared, have everything ready, tax return, W-2s, an idea of what schools you will be applying to, so that when you complete the FAFSA, you can enter that information quickly and include all the schools for which you plan to apply for eligibility and admission. So it's important that schools have that information as early as possible and do that. That is probably the biggest piece on the checklist. The second piece I would suggest is, if you have not already, pay very close attention to the institutional scholarships available. You want to apply for any and all of those. Some schools have applications, some do not. So it's important to be very, very, very diligent in looking at those sources, because there's a lot of people competing for those. And then perhaps one that maybe folks don't think about as much is look for scholarship opportunities in your local community. There are a lot of the emphasis on the big scholarships, but it's important to look for ones that might be right in your own backyard, perhaps with an employer, a church, a civic organization. There's lots of those out there, and it's important not to miss those as well. They can make the difference between attending school and not.
All right. And given the fact that we have diverse schools in South Carolina and many different districts and abilities and funding, you mentioned the guidance counselor. So what specifically should a student be asking of the guidance counselor, or where can they find resources to help them with this if they don't have a guidance counselor?
I think if they do have access to a guidance counselor, they should be speaking with them about where it is that they intend to go to college, what they intend to do there, and that student and the guidance counselor look very carefully at costs and benefits and determine if that's a good fit for them. A guidance counselor is going to be the expert in that, particularly for the schools in this state. Okay, that's a very, very important piece. If a student does not have access to a guidance counselor, we always encourage them to contact the financial aid office at the institutions where they're interested in. We talk to a lot of families who don't ultimately come to the University of South Carolina, but that's okay. We want to make sure they get the information they need to make the right decision. So if there's no guidance counselor or source available, reach out to the institution itself, and they'll be happy to help you.
And scholarships. I think that's important. You said make sure that they know what scholarships are at their institution.
Right.
How do they do that? Where do they go? What websites?
I think most often now the best source is to go to the school's website. Okay. Most schools, if not all schools now, have their scholarship information prominently displayed. All the information they need, not just the scholarships that the institution offers, but maybe the schools inside the institution as well. It's important to look at those as well. There are a lot of search engines out there to help you find scholarships. It's important to look at those very carefully. Some charge a fee. You want to make sure that they're actually worth the money that you're spending if you're going to use those. So again, it's kind of a strategy of looking at a number of different places, but I always recommend to start with the school's website. They're going to have the most concise information, the most updated information, and application information should you need it.
Okay. And could you talk a little bit about the details of the loans?
Certainly. I certainly can. So a lot of publicity around loans these days. Okay, so the truth of the matter is that for a lot of families, some responsible, intelligent borrowing is just a fact of reality to earn a degree from an institution. Just costs and other drivers. It really is important to think about that as possibly a part of what's required to earn an education. And I mention this a lot because I do speak to a lot of families who are very worried about debt, very worried about borrowing more than they can afford to pay back. And so my advice to them is just, pay very careful attention up front to how much you borrow and how much you expect to earn when you get out, and make sure that you've made some conscious decisions. When you think about it, I talk to a lot of families who are worried about borrowing at all, and I try to remind them that a lot of studies out there that a college education can result in over $1 million more in earnings over a lifetime, over a high school education.
That's amazing.
That's an excellent return on your investment,
yes.
Right? So it's important to think about that. So when you think about the types of loans, it's really important to remember that the best ones generally come from the FAFSA. Okay, so if folks wonder if they should fill it out, I always recommend everyone fill it out at least for the first year, because the best loan programs are from the federal government, and they do come from the FAFSA. That's where you want to go first.
Okay, all right.
Try to get an idea of what the cost will be, and not just tuition. Make sure that you look at all the costs: tuition, room and board, books, supplies. Get an idea of how much you think it'll cost in a year, and then look at what you think you'll need to make up in the difference in loans and other programs if you were to earn some of these scholarships and grants. Again, kind of a balancing act, a little bit of speculation, but it's important to be prepared in that regard.
What are the issues that new students, freshmen or first-year students may experience and need to come to your office?
Sometimes what happens is they've done their due diligence, they've planned for costs, and perhaps it just didn't quite turn out the way they thought. Sometimes perhaps charges are different than they expected, perhaps a change in the family's income has occurred. All those different variables. If something has happened and needs some additional assistance, we encourage them highly to come to our office. Come visit with us. Give us a call on the phone and let us talk through the issues that you're encountering with us, and let's make sure that we have everything in order. Because sometimes it's a very simple explanation. Sometimes a little bit more money is needed. We can help guide a student and parent in the right direction. We don't want them to find themselves during this first week of school with so many things going on, trying to figure out ways to cover the final amount on the bill. So they should contact us and we'll be happy to help them.
Okay. Joy, do you mind sharing your contact information with us?
I'd be happy to, Dr. Watson. We're available by phone at 803-777-8134 and by email at uscfaid@sc.edu.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Regina Hailey Smith, Program Coordinator for the University of South Carolina Educational Talent Search Program, shared with us how the TRIO programs prepare South Carolina students for college and support them once they get there.
TRIO programs, they are federally funded programs. They started in the mid-1960s, and they have been offered across the United States, not just South Carolina. Initially, there were 3 TRIO programs, which consisted of Upward Bound, that works with high school students, Educational Talent Search, that works with middle school and high school students, and Student Support Services, which I kind of consider it's like an Upward Bound for college students. Upward Bound works with high school students. Most Upward Bound programs, when the grants are written, they have a target area and they assist specific schools in the area where they are serving. It offers really intense programming for students, for high school students. They have tutoring, they have on-campus programming that they do during the summer to help students just get acclimated to a college campus and college environment, and they do college tours and just try to really make sure that those students get all the services and the things that they need in order to get ready and go to the best fit college according to the students' needs. Educational Talent Search, that program was started to assist a broader scale of students. So we don't start in high school, we start with working with them in middle school. In middle school, we want to get them excited and let them know that college is a possibility. But Educational Talent Search is an extension of guidance services. So the services that we provide are similar to Upward Bound, but it's more informational types of services. And so we work with students who are already academically capable and ready to go to college, but perhaps they did not have a history, their parents did not attend college, so they need additional information to make sure that they stay on track. And we work with middle and high school students with Educational Talent Search. Student Support Services is another program that TRIO offers, and it works with students who are in college and wanting to make sure that they make that transition smoothly from high school to college and that they graduate once they get here. So I kind of call it like an Upward Bound for college students. So they offer those same types of services like an Upward Bound program does, but it's on the college level. There are several other TRIO programs now that are available too, in addition to the initial three. There's Upward Bound Math Science that works with high school students that are really interested in going into the math and science programs. Upward Bound Veterans program is available for students, for those veterans. We also have Educational Opportunity Centers that works with adult students who want to go to college, or maybe they need to go back to college if they didn't finish. And we have the Ronald McNair program that works with students who are in college and they want to pursue a degree, a master's or a PhD. So we really have TRIO programs to work with everyone from middle school to adulthood. I work with the University of South Carolina TRIO programs, and we house 4 TRIO programs here. We have Educational Talent Search, Upward Bound, the Ronald McNair program, and we have Student Support Services, which we call the Opportunity Scholars Program. But to contact us, you can contact us directly at 803-777-5127. I would certainly tell students to reach out to all of the resources that they have. What we do with TRIO programs is it's a free program. Our assistance is available to students to help them to navigate this entire process. If if there's not a TRIO program at their particular middle or high school, I would strongly encourage them to work closely with their school counselors, because they can be a really, really good resource of information. I would tell the students, don't let the fear of not having enough money stop them from applying to or wanting to go to college, because there are different resources and avenues that they can go through and tap into to help them and assist them to go to the college of their choice. So I would encourage them to start the process early. Do not wait until your senior year and try to do everything at one time. It's not that it's too late to start in your senior year, but you want to balance it so that you know that you're staying on target and reaching your goals. One of the reasons we have Talent Search in middle school is for the students to start early, to start thinking about that entire process, so that parents can start thinking about it and maybe saving for it and just making sure that they're dotting all their I's and crossing all their T's. But it is not out of reach. It is a possibility, but you just need to make sure that you're staying on track and you're doing what you need to do to apply for what you need to do, and do it on time. I would tell them to start the process early. We have many calendars and steps and things that students need to do in order to do things on time and make sure that they're meeting their deadlines. One of the reasons why a lot of our students sometimes do not or aren't able to go to college is that they miss the deadlines. And that's so very important, that they do a lot of these things on time, and they are very cognizant of that. And as long as they can do those things and stay organized, college is definitely a possibility.
Earl Mayo is the Deputy Director of the South Carolina Tuition Grants Commission.
And the South Carolina Tuition Grants Program is a state program that was created by the state legislature in 1970. The purpose of the Tuition Grants Program is to provide students who have financial need the ability to receive funding from the state to pay for their tuition and required fees. And those funds can be used at one of 21 independent colleges located across the state of South Carolina. The list of eligible colleges are located at the Tuition Grants website, sctuitiongrants.org, along with a link to each of the home pages for those 21 colleges. The funds are provided for this program through the state legislature. They annually appropriate to the Tuition Grants Program the amount of money needed to award the students. Those funds are a combination of state appropriations, which are basically tax funds, in addition to a portion of the funds coming from the lottery, state lottery. And we always want to thank the state legislators for what they do for us. They have funded this program very well now since 1970 and have really done a phenomenal job of awarding and providing funding to all of the state financial aid programs, grants and scholarships across the state. The tuition grants program is a need-based program. In other words, students have to have financial need to qualify for the program. The application for that is the free federal application for student financial aid, the FAFSA. And students can obtain that online, fafsa.gov, and they have to fill out that application annually to qualify for a tuition grant. There is a deadline, and that deadline annually is June 30th. The availability of that application is online starting October 1st. So students have actually a 9-month application period from October 1st through June 30th to apply for the tuition grant. And one of the things I'd like to point out for that is that deadline, and it's very important. I can't emphasize enough the importance of that June 30th deadline. Students who apply by June 30th and are eligible get a tuition grant. Students who miss that deadline, even by 1 day, no matter how much financial need they have, no matter how good they may be academically, will get no money, no tuition grant. Students must apply annually for the tuition grant. Unfortunately, we have students every year who don't understand that and miss the application, thinking they can apply once as freshmen and they get it the whole time, but that's not the case. They must apply annually, and they must apply by the June 30 deadline to qualify. For entering freshmen, they have to meet one of 4 requirements. Those requirements are that they graduate in the top 75% of their high school class, or they score a 900 on the SAT combined scores for the math and the verbal section of that, or they score a 19 composite on the ACT test, or that they graduate from a South Carolina high school with a 2.0 GPA or higher on the South Carolina uniform grading policy. Now, once a student's in school, they must pass 24 credit hours per year to continue to qualify, and they must also meet the college's federal satisfactory academic progress requirements. The tuition grant is specifically for payment of tuition and required fees. The student must attend in the fall semester full-time to receive the grant. They must attend full-time period, but must attend fall to receive it for the year. It's only available for fall and spring. There's no summer money available. A student can receive the tuition grant in addition to other state scholarships. They can receive, for instance, a Life or Palmetto Fellow or Hope Scholarship plus a tuition grant. If the student happens to receive some other outside scholarship that pays full tuition, a tuition-specific scholarship, then their tuition grant may be reduced based on the amount of that scholarship. The tuition grant is available for up to 4 years of college. So they can get 8 semesters, 4 years of tuition grant. Unlike some of the scholarship programs where you have to go continuously every semester, if a student needs to drop out for some reason for a semester, they can still receive 8 semesters even if it's not continuous. And they cannot have already received a 4-year bachelor's degree. If they have that bachelor's degree, then they're also no longer eligible for a tuition grant. The tuition grants program is available at 21 colleges across the state. Of those colleges, there's a diverse population of colleges where they can receive that. 5 of those colleges are historically black colleges located in South Carolina, in addition to 2 female-only undergraduate colleges. And in addition to that, of the 21 colleges, 14 of those have evening programs for adult learners where they can take classes in the evening or on the weekends, and as long as they're full-time, they'll be able to receive a tuition grant to help pay that tuition. For the South Carolina tuition grant, in addition to the other state financial aid programs, you must be a South Carolina resident to receive those funds. And that means when you fill out the FAFSA, it's really important to fill out the residency questions correctly. The student needs to be sure that they list themselves as a South Carolina resident, And if they're required to provide their parental information on the FAFSA, their parents must also be South Carolina residents to qualify under the state's residency requirements. So it's really important when filling out that FAFSA, don't skip the questions for the residency, or you won't get into the application system, and it just delays the process of getting a tuition grant, of having to follow up, get information that wasn't provided the first time. For the tuition grants program, the website is sctuitiongrants.org, and the phone number is 803-896-1120. The commission and the commission staff can be reached at that phone number and through that website. Additionally, there's an organization in South Carolina called the South Carolina Independent Colleges and Universities. SCICU.org is their website, and we recommend students go to their website as well, where they can also link to those eligible colleges and receive lots of information about those colleges, the majors that they can study at those schools, other types of financial aid that are available through those college financial aid offices, in addition to the tuition grants. So we recommend students do that.
The Commission on Higher Education is a valuable resource for students. The CHE staff stopped by our studios to talk with us about programs that help students apply for and pay for college.
The Commission on Higher Education is a coordinating board that serves the 33 public institutions in the state. It was established by the General Assembly in 1967. The Commission on Higher Education is actually a promotional agency. We advocate for access, affordability, and excellence among the state's colleges and universities through coordination, advocacy, and also oversight by the General Assembly. There are 5 programs, scholarships and grants, administered by the Commission on Higher Education. The Life Scholarship Program, that began in 1998. An earlier program called the Palmetto Fellow Scholarship Program started in 1988. And also, shortly thereafter, the General Assembly approved the South Carolina Need-Based Grant, the South Carolina Hope Scholarship, and also the Lottery Tuition Assistance Program. There are 106,000 students around the state who are attending our state's public and private institutions who are participating in the state scholarship and grants program. In general, the eligibility requirements are: first, a student must be attending or have graduated from a South Carolina public or independent high school, or in a homeschool high school program of study, or if they're attending a preparatory college, a college preparatory high school outside of the state, they must be a dependent of a South Carolina resident. Also, the student must be a South Carolina resident and a U.S. citizen or permanent resident at the time of high school graduation. A student must attend a South Carolina public or independent 4-year or 2-year college or university. They must verify that they are not in default or in a repayment of state or federal financial aid. And then a student also must certify that they have not been convicted of any felonies or been convicted of any second or subsequent alcohol or drug-related misdemeanor offenses. Typically, we look at the previous academic year. Now, there's other information about the eligibility requirements at the South Carolina Commission on Higher Education's website, and that website is che.sc.gov. And we also have another website. It's called sccango.org. And parents and students and families, they can also call the Commission on Higher Education at 803-737-2260.
The South Carolina Hope Scholarship was established in 2001, and it's designed for students who want to attend an eligible 4-year public or independent institution here in South Carolina, but don't quite meet the requirements for the Life Scholarship or the Palmetto Fellow Scholarship. The annual award amount for the Hope Scholarship is $2,800, and that's usually broken up to $1,400 in the fall and up to $1,400 in the spring. The scholarships apply towards the student's cost of attendance, and see that gives the institution some flexibility to award some gift aid or other gift aid to help the student. To qualify for the South Carolina Hope Scholarship, a student has only one criteria, and that's a 3.0 GPA out of high school, and that's got to be based on the South Carolina Uniform Grading Policy. The Hope Scholarship is only for the first year of attendance, and so the student receives that award with the hope that they'll move into the Life Scholarship program for year 2. And to qualify for a Life Scholarship, a Hope recipient needs to earn at least a 3.0 Life GPA, and so that's the GPA they would earn in college, and then an average of 30 credit hours by the end of that first year. The Life Scholarship is actually the second in the series of 3 scholarship programs. It was established in 1998, and a student can use a Life Scholarship at eligible 2-year or 4-year institutions in South Carolina. The annual award amount for the Life Scholarship is up to $5,000, and that's broken up into up to $2,500 in the fall and $2,500 in the spring. Scholarship can be applied towards cost of attendance, and that gives the institution the flexibility to award other scholarships or other gift aid that the student may receive. If you qualify for the Life Scholarship at a 2-year institution, there's only one criteria. The student needs to meet a 3.0 out of high school based on the South Carolina Uniform Grade Policy. To qualify for the Life Scholarship at a 4-year institution, there's 3 criteria, and the student needs to meet 2 of them. So the first would be to earn a 3.0 GPA, again based on the South Carolina Uniform Grading Policy. Or the student can use a standardized test score, which would be either an 1100 on the SAT or 24 on the ACT. Or the student can rank in the top 30% of the graduating high school class. Now, to use the ranking criteria, the ranking policy of the high school does need to be approved by CHE staff. A student can earn the Life Scholarship while they're in college by earning a 3.0 Life GPA, and that is the cumulative GPA of college work, and by earning an average of 30 credit hours for every year that they've been in school. A student can receive the Life Scholarship for a maximum of 8 consecutive semesters if they're in an eligible 4-year program, or 4 years if they're in an eligible 4-year program. Now, a student that's enrolled in an approved 5-year program can receive the scholarship for a maximum of 10 consecutive semesters. The Lottery Tuition Assistance Program is a grant program designed for use at eligible 2-year institutions in South Carolina. Now, that would include the 16 technical colleges in the technical college system, the 4 regional campuses of the University of South Carolina, and Spartanburg Methodist College. To qualify for lottery tuition assistance, a student simply needs to be enrolled as a degree-seeking student at an eligible college and complete that free application for federal student aid or a FAFSA waiver. The annual award amount for lottery tuition assistance can vary based on the number of students in the program, but for the upcoming fall term, the award amount is $1,140 for a full-time student, and that's 12 hours, or that can be broken down to $95 per credit hour for a student that's enrolled in a minimum of 6 credit hours. The Lottery Tuition Assistance Program can only be applied towards the cost of tuition after all other gift aid has been applied. The Commission on Higher Education administers 3 programs to help students navigate the college access process. The programs focus on completing the college application, completing the free application for federal student aid, and then completing a celebratory program to celebrate their decision to attend college. The first program the Commission administers is College Application Month, and this is South Carolina's adaptation of the American College Application Campaign, and the goal is to help students complete applications to get into the college of their choice. To get involved, a high school simply needs to select a date, secure a space in their school, and then contact CHE staff to let us know what the date is. For our part, CHE will work with local colleges and universities to encourage them to go out to the high schools on that date and help those students complete the college application. During College Application Month activities, we always want students to keep certain things in mind when they're completing the college applications. Number 1, they should have key information available that they would need for the application. Different applications will require different things, but most of them require the Social Security number, and then for the student to create an account to create a sign-in and password. A student should always give themselves enough time when they're completing the college application, because some of them do contain essays that the student will want to complete. There's also residency sections on most of our South Carolina applications so that they can determine themselves to be a resident for tuition and fee purposes. Students should always allow themselves time to complete the residency section as well, and they may need parent information for that section as well. Students should also have a transcript with them when they're completing the college application so they can fill out the classes in high school that they took. They want to identify SAT and ACT dates and be sure they're able to fill out the applications around those times and use their most recent scores. Students should apply early, and then for that they can actually use the college application month at their school to complete the college application. Mock applications also help. Common App or even a paper application from a local college could help a student become more familiar with the application. College Goals South Carolina is South Carolina's adaptation of College Goals Sunday, which is a national program designed to help students complete the free application for federal student aid. Now, this application is important because that's how students unlock funding to access for their college education. South Carolina partners with universities and colleges across the state on certain days through the months of October through February, so that the higher education institutions would open up their doors and invite families and students to the college campus and high school campus in some cases to complete the FAFSA. College Decision Day is our newest program at CHE, and it's designed as more of a celebratory program for the high schools. The goal of College Decision Day is to emphasize a student's choice to enter post-secondary education. In South Carolina, we give a lot of attention to our wonderful high school athletes who sign on to go on to college on a scholarship. We thought it would be a great idea if South Carolina gave as much attention to students, to every student who's going to college, in the same manner that we celebrate our athletes. It's patterned after National College Signing Day for that same purpose. You have a bunch of students in South Carolina that really don't believe college is an option for them. And to not only for them to go, but then for the school, their high school to throw a program that celebrates that choice to go to college, it is awesome.
The Palmetto Fellow Scholarship was established in 1988 by the South Carolina General Assembly in hopes to award the best and brightest in the state. The Palmetto Fellows Scholarship is the only merit-based scholarship that has an application. It needs to be completed by the high school counselor during the student's graduating year. A Palmetto Fellow does have to be at a four-year institution in order to be awarded. There are two application periods, the early award and the late award. The early award is during the student's fall term of their graduating year, and the late award is during the spring term of their graduating year. The early award opens around mid-October and closes December 15th of every year. In order for a student to be eligible for the early award, they need to have a 3.5 SCETV GPA at the end of their 11th grade year. They need to earn a 1200 SAT or a 27 ACT by the November test administration, and they need to rank in the top 6% in either 10th or 11th grade. Without regards to rank, a student can also earn the Palmetto Fellow Scholarship during the early award if they earn a 1400 SAT or 32 ACT by the November test administration and have a 4.0 SCUGP by the end of their junior year. The late award opens mid-April to June 15th of every year. In order for a student to be eligible for the late award, they need to earn a 3.5 SCUGP GPA, which is the South Carolina Uniform Grading Policy, by the end of their senior year. They have to have a 1200 SAT or a 27 ACT by the June test administration, and they have to rank in the top 6% in either 10th, 11th, or 12th grade. They can also earn the Palmetto Fellows during the late award using the alternative criteria of a 1400 SAT, a 32 ACT by the June test administration, and then have a 4.0 SCUGP GPA by the end of their senior year. The Palmetto Fellows is awarded up to $6,700 during the first academic year and up to $7,500 during the second, third, and fourth academic year. The award amount is split between the two terms, and it must go towards the cost of attendance. It's less than any other sources of gifting. A Palmetto Fellow can receive the award for up to 8 consecutive terms unless they're in an approved 5-year program where they can receive 10 terms of eligibility. The need-based grant is funded by the General Assembly. The funding is available at public institutions and private institutions. For public institutions, the Commission on Higher Ed manages the need-based funding. For private institutions, the tuition grants manage the funding. At public institutions, if a student wants to receive a need-based grant, they do need to complete the free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA, and the institution will determine if they're eligible and award appropriately. A student can receive up to $2,500 if they're full-time per academic year, or $1,250 for part-time. They can receive a need-based funding for up to 2 terms, so either fall, spring, and/or summer. Institution will determine the exact amount. They each have a calculation on how to calculate the need-based funding for their students. They do try to award as many students as possible. Each institution only gets a certain amount of funding per year, and they try to give it to as many students as possible, but eventually they do run out of funding. The need-based grant is awarded towards the cost of attendance for up to 8 full-time equivalent terms or 16 part-time terms. The students must be enrolled in their first one-year program, first associate's degree, first two-year program leading to a bachelor degree, first bachelor degree, or first professional degree. All of our scholarships and grants are on our website at che.sc.gov. You can also give us a phone call at 803-737-2260, or you can send us a direct email. My email address is tweigold@che.sc.gov.
South Carolina Student Loan is another option for students to get help paying for college.
South Carolina Student Loan has been in business for over 40 years. Our job has really been trying to help students succeed in finding their educational goals and meeting those educational goals and being able to pay for those educational goals. We like to work very closely with the counselors throughout the state of South Carolina, trying to go into the high schools quite a bit. We do a lot of what we call financial aid nights, where we'll actually go to the school during the evening. The parents will come out along with the students, and we can explain to them about the federal programs, the state programs that are available to help pay for college. We can also tell them about how the FAFSA, how the process works to get involved, how to pay for those loans, how to get the whole process started. We have the College Planning Center, which allows families all the way from kindergarten all the way up through grade 12. It provides them step-by-step, grade-specific guidance on things they need to be doing to get ready for college. We do administer a program for the state of South Carolina called the South Carolina Teacher Loan Program. It is a state program, and the key thing about this is you borrow money to go to college, but it is 100% forgivable if that individual then teaches in the state of South Carolina afterwards. They do have to teach in a critical geographic area of the state. About 80% of our schools are defined as critical geographic areas, or in what's called a critical subject. They're always welcome to contact us by phone, and that website, www.scstudentloan.org, certainly provides all the information, tells you about all the different programs we have available to us.
You can find this episode and other educational stories from around the state on our website. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.